So
Go back to the Copa.
All right, so
Copa America. Dude, this game took forever. Took forever. It was supposed to start at 7 o'clock, and it finished, what, around 11:30 p.m. our time?
Did you see why, though?
No, of course I saw
Yeah,
why.
okay.
We'll get into it, that's why, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, it did take forever.
I was ready for a nice Copa America final, and it would have been done by, at the latest 10:30.
Yep.
With extra time and penalties if it were to go, but obviously the was it both fan bases or was it one fan base in particular?
I think it was both fan bases.
So both fan bases having some rowdy times trying to rush the ticket box so that way they can get it for free, and just probably a whole bunch of other shenanigans going on, just being a drunk fan just wanting to have a good time at a final that just kind of went out of hand. And we obviously didn't have the staff, that being not we, but
security.
The security at the Hard
USA.
Rock, the USA hosting the CONMEBOL, Copa America. Obviously, we couldn't handle it at that point, and it got delayed. What, an hour and a half?
Did it start around 8:30?
They started around 8:30.
Okay, that makes more sense.
8:15, something like that.
So I remember when I came home, I was super tired. So I was like, I'm gonna take a nap. It's gonna start around 7. I woke up and I was like, why are they still talking? Like, why is Clint Dempsey and crew still talking? And then I was like, oh, the game got delayed. It's supposed to be at 7:30 now. Okay, cool. I'm gonna keep sleeping. And then eventually, I woke up at 8-ish, and I was like, the game's still not on.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started around 8:30-ish. Did you see some of the people sneaking in through the vents?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so that was another security issue. People were sneaking in through the vent ducts.
That's hilarious.
And they were climbing into the stadium.
That's crazy.
way. And so security had to check to make sure obviously, first of all, they don't want people who don't have tickets to go in. But also that's a security violation because you don't know if those people have weapons on them or not, right? So you don't want the players to get injured. And then that would look terrible for the US if anyone did get injured. I mean, we just the same day, right? It was Saturday? The same day we had an attempted assassination on our former president.
Yeah.
So obviously there was security concerns at play.
There was a lot going on that day.
A lot going on. Yeah. So, or that was the day before.
It was the day before.
Yeah, that was because that was Saturday to Sunday. So even more reason.
So there's shit going on this weekend.
Even more reason for them to really prepare to not because the U.S. is starting to get a bad rep. If we let's say for example someone tries to shoot Messi. That's a really bad rep. We're not hosting any. We're not hosting any tournaments.
Yeah, definitely. But I think they're gonna probably. It's obviously since CONMEBOL and World Cup, we're gonna change different staffing organizations, and I think they'll up the
security.
The security. I think they just completely underestimated the South American fans.
That's for sure.
They just completely underestimated, which they know now. They know now.
South American fans are crazy, man. We don't care. Rules are optional to us.
Just the style of play too. I think we'll see how it goes. But the South American countries came in and they dominated. I mean, it's their tournament. So
no respect for the U.S.
What did we expect?
Yeah. In hindsight, there's been a lot of even Marcelo Bielsa coming out and criticizing the U.S. for their poor security.
It was a crazy game, but it eventually kicked off. And
speaking of which, we might want to go back because we also need to cover the third place match that happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I didn't watch it, so.
Oh, you didn't watch it?
I don't necessarily care, but
I did watch it.
For the people who do care,
I watched it. It was a good game. Honestly, I lost money on this game. I bet $50 that Uruguay would win.
Outright?
Yeah, they would win in regular time. So, because I was thinking, oh man, Uruguay has this in the bag, dude. They're gonna be pissed off after losing to Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
And surprisingly, Canada showed up. I mean, maybe it was the pressure was off them. They were, they weren't really playing for anything. You're not really playing for anything. If you get third place or fourth place, it doesn't really matter. I think maybe it matters for in terms of how much money you win. But I'm sure the difference is only a couple million. But yeah, so this game was really good. Uruguay started off pretty dominant. And then something in Canada just switched, and Canada pretty much dominated the rest of the game up until like the 80th something minute, where yeah, after David scored, they were like, oh shit, this is really happening. Like we really may win this. And at that point, I was like, what the fuck is Uruguay doing? Like Uruguay was just losing possession in the midfield. They were giving away possession because Uruguay had the better midfielders. They could hold possession. They were giving away possession to Canada. Canada was capitalizing on top of it. Canada kept coming and coming on counterattacks. And then it was just, by fate that Luis Suarez would save them with a last minute header to go to penalties. Luis Suarez, this is probably his last Copa. He's like what, 30, 37. Yeah, this is most definitely his last Copa. I mean, he already has one. He won one in 2011 with Diego Forlan in Uruguay. So it's not too bad that he didn't win this last one. Of course, he'd be disappointed. But yeah, if you look at this, man, like look at this. Canada had more expected goals, more shots on target, more big chances, significantly more big chances. They had more passes and slightly more possession, which is like pretty impressive considering that Uruguay have like a really good midfield, and they're also coached by one of the best coaches in the world. So yeah, I mean, this match was completely surprising. But yeah, at the end, it went to penalties, and Uruguay didn't miss a single one. Didn't miss a single one, and then Davies, their captain,
Stepped up.
missed.
Couldn't do it.
Missed. I think he shot it over. Oh yeah, that's what happened. He tried to do a Panenka.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Alfonso Davies tried to do a Panenka and just chipped it over the crossbar.
Really? I didn't even go back and watch the highlights, but that's hilarious that happened.
Yeah. So
I also looked, or at least I saw the post match. I did see Jesse March kind of give a aggravated post match press conference because he didn't obviously like the style of play throughout this whole tournament, but particularly since Uruguay was taking the most advantage of it this tournament, being very physical and tactically fouling smart. But Jesse thought it was not right because they were exploiting a little bit of the leniency of the CONMEBOL's refereeing just in general.
yeah, I mean, him and the rest of CONCACAF will say the same thing.
Exactly. I think we just
CONMEBOL, like, we're used to this. This is how we play in South America. We're gonna do some cheap shots on you. We're gonna bully you a little bit. Much more physical, a little bit dirty. That's how they play in the streets. Whenever I've been to Peru a couple of times, that's how they play in the streets, man. And so like you just gotta get used to it. Um, and even it reminds me of this last World Cup where I don't know what got into Lionel Messi, but him and his whole team was just like, it was like a gang. Every time they stepped on the field, it was a gang, bro. They were looking for beef. And it was the funniest thing after they beat Netherlands, where like Messi iconically says, like, "Give me this bobo." To I forget who it was, but one of the Netherlands players. He was like trying to start shit as he was doing an interview, and so I think that just embodies it. I think as soon as like Argentina was like fucking like gangster like on the pitch, I think that's when I was like, okay, they're actually serious about winning this, and that's just the mentality that you come in and playing. So it was impressive to see Canada do as well as they did. But I mean, I don't think the World Cup won't necessarily be like that. It's not gonna be just South American teams. It's gonna be more of the world, more European teams here.
But I think the CONCACAF teams have been complaining a lot this whole Copa America, and I just think suck it up. Suck it up. This is not Europe. This wasn't the Euros. Obviously, the CONMEBOL have their own federation, their own way they like to set up their tournaments and officiate the tournaments. So I think you just have to roll with the dice or roll with the punches. And I just didn't necessarily think the criticism was. You can criticize it, but I don't think it was necessarily warranted.
Yeah,
I think you kind of have to expect that going into a South American tournament, which. I mean, did you watch the last tournament? It was completely physical.
Yeah.
and it's just not going to be anything other than that.
And if anything, I feel like there's a learning. Uh, there's something that the United States can learn from this,
Hmm.
and it's to be a little more physical, to be a
Yeah,
little more ruthless. You know, like
yeah.
what you don't have in skill, you make up for in physicality.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, let's talk about the game. I think the game was a much better final than the England Spain one. Maybe not as many goals, but in terms of like team equality, like both teams were like really good. Both teams deserved to be in the final, and I think both teams could have won it at some point. I think I'll start off with saying that Colombia looked a lot better in the second half than the first half. They had a lot more chances, but just because they had more chances, I think Argentina had the better quality chances. They could have easily like scored a couple times. Um, I remember one time Di Maria had a really good shot one time where he puts it in the near post and the goalkeeper just barely makes a save. There was a couple miscommunications between the Colombian defense where they I don't know what they were doing. They were trying to keep possession in their own beginning third, and they just kind of gave away possession easily to Argentina. So, uh, yeah, what do you have to say about it?
I kind of saw the game a little bit different to what you just said. I thought
Yeah, tell me.
that Colombia were the better team. I actually thought they did better in the first half than they did in the second half.
Hmm.
I thought they actually started to really fatigue. I think the the game was better than the Euro final when it comes to the match having exciting moments throughout its entire 90 and into the extra time. It did have a couple moments, but I think being in Miami, it was not the hottest day, but the humidity was up there as it would be in Florida in the summertime. And I think along with having a long season, most of these players, and then a long tournament on top of that, I think both teams were really flatlining towards the 70th minute, and I really thought much to what you said, like Colombia were the better team. Both team had some chances, kind of just more to like lapses in misjudgment,
Yeah,
um, or lapses in judgment, and
yeah,
I thought Colombia just kept fizzling out, but Argentina just had those moments where they just kept finding a moment, even though they were kind of pushed out the game when it came to trying to do something in own possession. I thought Colombia did a better job at that, but it didn't matter because Argentina kept finding ways to be in crucial points to try and score goals.
yeah, definitely. And even after Messi, we saw in that around the 30th minute, he like goes for that cross, and I forget who it was. It was maybe Montiel or not Montiel. It was either Arias or Sanchez who like goes and makes that tackle and just falls on his ankle. And it's to me, it's pretty impressive that he continued to play on for like the next like 40 or something minutes. I mean, he went off in the 60th minute, but he still went in the locker room at halftime. And at that point, I'm sure he must have looked at his ankle and was like, okay, there's something wrong with my ankle. And it was only whenever he was like making that run in the 60th minute that he fell down out of nowhere. And he was like, later on the cameras go to his ankle and it's like swollen, right? And so for Argentina to kind of persist through that, it was really impressive. Um, I think one thing is interesting is as I was watching this game, I thought so. I originally had like a bet, right, that Colombia would not lose in 90th minute, right? So that means they
Yeah,
could either draw or win. If they drew, I get my money back. If they win, I get my money back and I win, right?
yeah,
So I had Colombia to win. When it went to extra time, though, I didn't have the same feeling, especially because they took out James at the
yeah.
beginning of extra time. I don't know if that was a fatigue thing or a tactical thing. I'm guessing it was an energy
Yeah, I
levels
think it's
issue.
fatigue.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know what's up with James. Maybe he was just so tired he couldn't continue. But I think the deciding point really when I decided to like go all in and I made a bet for going all in on Argentina was when I saw this man who has been fucking up all my bets.
Oh yeah,
This
come on.
yeah, when I saw Lautaro Martinez get ready, I was like, oh, Lautaro's coming on. I was like, I put like $100 on Argentina right then. and that ended up paying off because he ended up scoring the winning goal, which wasn't really like too impressive if you look at the replay.
No,
Like
it wasn't.
the goalkeeper literally like ducks so the ball doesn't hit him when he really should have just like either headed it out the way or like blocked it. But it was also like a really good strike. It was first time, good pass by Lo Celso, and I mean that was the difference. That's all you need. I mean Martinez playing great, Emiliano Martinez. Only good things to say about him in this whole tournament. Made a lot of good saves. Um, and yeah, I do think the better team that day won over the course of 120 minutes. I think Colombia, if they had a chance to win it, it would have been in the regular 90. But yeah, there was one chance where I forgot who it was. James has a corner and he goes to the far post, and whoever was at the far post sends it back to the near post. I think it was Davidson Sanchez who just leaps, and he
And
had
no, it was no. So it was is was it Cordado?
it was
Cordado.
it was Cordoba.
Cordoba headed it back, and it was Sanchez who missed the chance.
Yeah, so Sanchez had like a perfectly like he was completely open. Martinez was like in the middle. He wouldn't have gone to it, and he just jumps a little too early, and like just he just misses it. But that was probably their best chance that I
Mm.
saw.
I'd say Luis Diaz. We were expecting. I was at least expecting him to have a really big tournament. Was completely no nothing to really like harp on his performance when it came to like being positive. He was completely a ghost in that game, really.
Yeah, I mean he was locked down very well, but yeah, you're right. I mean he didn't have that many dribbles. Um, he didn't play his best game. He lost a lot of duels, and wow, look at that ground duels won 1 out of 13. Like, that just shows like how many 50-50 balls he probably lost. He didn't win any of his aerial duels. Like he made passes, and but as far as like creating, which is what he's there to do, he's like an attacker. He's a winger. He didn't really create as much. I thought James was great. I thought James,
Yeah,
of course,
it's a
always.
shame he had to come off
Yeah, it is a shame.
because I think once Lautaro scored, I was now thinking that's game. I don't
Yeah.
think Colombia looked like they had anything of individual quality or just overall play getting themselves back into the game.
There was one dude who came on that impressed me,
Like Quintero,
Juan Quintero, and that's
he's
just
been there forever,
he's been there for a long
or
time.
just around just world football in general.
Yeah, and I'll include the clip, but he does this little sombrero. You know what
Hmm.
the sombrero is, right? Like he
Yeah,
just like flicks it over, and it was brilliant. Like he flicks it over, and then he gets the pass right. And I forgot who was the winger that came in for it was I don't know who the winger who came on for that right hand side was, but it was such a good pass and it was such a good play, and I'll include it. But yeah, other than that, I really didn't see anything too special. I didn't see Colombia winning. As soon as Lautaro scored that, I said, "Oh, okay, Argentina's gonna win."
yeah.
And Lautaro scored
Hmm.
as I thought. And I think even if they would have scored and they would have gone to penalties, I think Dibu Martinez is like
Yeah, with I mean, you have the edge going in there even without Messi.
yeah
Credit to Argentina. I've been backing Colombia the whole time, but to obviously reclaim your title and then do it against the Colombia side that we're going on 28, 29 odd games unbeaten.
yeah
That's some real champion mentality stuff, and they prove that not only the real deal that last Copa America and the World Cup wasn't a fluke. I don't think that was in question, but I think now it's also. I think they answered a little bit of the second question. Are they going to be able to be as great as they are in these past tournaments in the next tournaments without Messi? Since he's now probably going to be a just have certain moments where he appears getting ready for the World Cup if he even stays able to stay fit for that time. But I think they still have these pieces and these different stars, including young players that are coming up that make the future very bright for Argentina, even though they are losing the greatest ever player to ever play, which is
yeah.
a I mean, if you're Argentinian, I think that's it's a win-win. Even though you don't want to see Messi be in that position.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me either if Messi retires uh, before the World
Yeah,
Cup.
that would suck.
Yeah,
It was just in the perspective of the MLS season. I think Beckham would probably be like, "Oh, damn, I blew all this money to
yeah,
get like maybe 30, 40 odd games from him."
yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if he retires. I think the finalissima between Spain and Argentina is next year, and that will be an interesting match to see how the teams are going into based on like current form. I do think Spain is the better team out of those two, but the reason why I mention it is because it wouldn't surprise me if Messi retires after that and he
Mm.
doesn't even go to the next World Cup
Yeah,
because I've already seen in this tournament him kind of lose a step or two
yeah,
from I mean obviously prime Messi,
hmm
best player ever, right? Like you've ever seen. So he's not gonna. I'm not gonna expect him to be that type of level. But I mean, you can just tell, like even in Ronaldo, right? Like they've gone to lower leagues, so they're not around the best competition. And I'm guessing if I were to make an educated guess, that makes you lose a step or two from the competition, who's always playing at the highest level. And so I've seen it this tournament specifically in both players. And Messi getting one goal in this Copa America, that wasn't really even I think his goal. Like it was his goal officially, but like someone else shoots it and he just kind of gets a touch on it. It's not like he created that goal. It's not like he made it. He's still a great playmaker. I'm not saying he's not. What I'm saying is you can definitely tell he's lost a step or two, and I just don't know if he personally, now that he's won everything, would want to even play for the next World Cup, especially you can go out on a high
hmm
like the Copa America win, right? Like
yeah.
if you were to retire from Argentina right now, I think it would be great. His career would be legendary. He doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't need to play to the end to where he's not good anymore. Um, that specialness that a player has only comes around for a little bit. You know that amazing touch eventually does start to fade, and I wouldn't blame him if he retires before it starts to fade completely.
I wouldn't blame him either. I think he's done enough, and this is definitely a great place to finish on a high. I do think it's starting to catch up to him, to both Ronaldo and Messi, and I think it's not that they've lost like 3 or 4 steps. I do think they've lost like maybe a half a step or a complete step when being at that high level. But I think a lot of why they were kind of nullified or completely non-existent in some parts of these tournaments was it's not only the level of quality they're not facing week in and week out now, but it's also the level of physicality in some of those the big leagues in Europe that we're talking about. I mean, the Premier League, La Liga is very physical, even though it's probably considered a lesser one to the Premier League, the Bundesliga, the Serie A. All these leagues not only have physically dominant players that will require so much from you, but they're also really, really in tune with the game and their mentality and their IQ when it comes to approaching the game. I mean, being in MLS or being in the Saudi league, like you have athletes and there's athletes all around the world, but it's about that what makes the difference is in between here, an
Yeah,
athlete that can be great in their position and be positioned well and know how to make the right decisions and how to react and take what they're seeing and also make the correct decision in a very split second and not being around that week in and week out. I think it's just along with age, it really showed that you need that to be the top.
yeah, which is why it kind of surprises me that that Messi would even want to keep playing. He's already won everything. And he's even come out and said during this tournament that like he doesn't see himself playing for very long. So I wouldn't blame him if he retires. You're absolutely right. It's also the speed of play. One thing to add on that is like the speed of play speed of play in like between MLS. If you watch an MLS game, you might be thinking this is a little slower compared to like top European football, right?
Yeah.
This is why I love Champions League, like European Champions League.
Hmm.
It's the highest quality football there
Yeah.
is, the highest quality. And when you look at that, I've only watched Al Nassr play, maybe an Al Hilal game here and there, but I've only watched the top teams play, and there's definitely a slower pace of play. And I think that's on top of what you said with the mentality, the physicality. That really is what's killing them because then your timing's going to be off. And Ronaldo's timing was definitely off in this Euro. I mean, it was just evident. Like he was one step behind for the crosses. His touch and go wasn't as lethal as it used to be. Even I mean, Ronaldo's physicality is top tier. I'm sure, right? But like, even your age starts to play a factor as you get older. And Messi, I know he was playing with a little bit of an injury going into this. He missed that game against Peru, the third match. So I'm sure that he's been trying to play through this injury for a while. I think it just kind of blew up in the final. And so he really needs to take care of himself. I'm sure he's going to be out for like a month or two.
Yeah, they did report he has some ligament damage in his ankle.
Yeah, so you know what? If he needs to be out for the rest of the season, I wouldn't blame him. I mean, it's
Which
MLS.
sucks. I mean, it sucks because this is the first time we get to see Inter Miami in the playoffs since Messi has come here. But I mean, it's obviously he's not going to care about that.
Yeah, and his team is already stacked. I mean, he has Suarez and Busquets and Jordi Alba and rumors of other players coming to Inter Miami eventually. But yeah, I mean, hopefully he plays for one more year. Hopefully we'll see him in the Finalissimo. And you know, if Lamine Yamal and Spain can win that one, then you know it's a proper handover of God given talent to the new generation.
Yeah, it is.
But we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, I mean, Copa America was
Fun
great.
tournament.
Fun tournament.
So fun.
Physical tournament.
Maybe just not overall play, but just the moments. They had a lot of moments. Maybe some good, some bad, but it all made for some good entertainment.
Yeah, did you see what this is about? About the racist chants?
I saw a little bit about it, but
So basically, after they won, I don't know why they brought this up. They really
yeah,
didn't have to, but it started off with like fans chanting on an interview that they were making fun of France, saying like your mother is born in Cameroon, your dad's born in Nigeria, but
yeah,
your passport says France on it, right?
yeah,
And they were kind of making fun of the French team, who's like not really French
yeah.
to them. And so later on, the Enzo Fernandez goes on Instagram Live or whatever. He posts a video on his social media, basically chanting that the fans had made up. He's like chanting it while they're celebrating, and I think it's him um, and a couple other Argentinian players who are like doing these chants. And a day later, the French FA comes out and is like, okay, well, we're going to take action against you for what can be perceived as like a racist chant, right? Because like you're basically questioning the credibility or like the validity in these French players actually being French, right? And so then Enzo comes out and says, you know what, I'm really sorry. It was a mistake. The celebrations, I got caught up in the moment and I said some things I shouldn't have said. I completely own up to it, and it's my fault. This this led to some issues with him and some of his fellow um, French stars. One of them being Fofana in the Chelsea locker room,
Yeah.
who unfollowed him on Instagram. You know, which I guess that signified basically his
Oh my
disapproval.
God.
Yeah, his disapproval and his actions, and now Chelsea's coming out and they're starting disciplinary uh, action for his racist video. Um, and so it's interesting to see what's going to happen to the other football players who were involved in that. Of course, the Argentinian FA has come out and condemned this action. They do not approve of it, as they should do. But to be honest, I see where France got offended. I mean, of course, you don't want anyone talking shit about your players. And it's also a little bit unprofessional for these players to come
Yeah.
out and basically call out a country that had nothing to do with their
Yeah.
tournament. Like, they've already beat them in the World Cup. What more do you need to come out and say? You already beat them in, like, where it actually counts. So it really just has no place for in football. It's really no reason to say things like that. Like leave that chanting to the fans, who just make up all sorts of chants. In South America, it's like super common to make up like really insulting chants for your opponents, and I get that. Like I'm not saying I approve of it. I'm saying I get it. It's been like around since forever. But really, it's usually whenever you're playing teams, right? Like this has nothing to do with France. So it's kind of odd that they would bring it up.
Yeah, it's completely unwarranted. That's just the only thing I think about. And I mean, it's obviously a douche move by Enzo, but he probably, is high of the moment. It was in the locker room.
It was either in the locker room or on the bus.
So I'm trying to think if he already had like drinks flowing in him at that point.
He was
Alcohol
def
was talking. He's just thinking he's on top of the world. I don't know. I obviously don't think it's a it's something that should be justified, but it's such a weird thing, just especially because why are you worrying about France? Like they got knocked out, of course, but why are you comparing yourself to a team that again wasn't in the tournament? And I think you'll enjoy yourself. So I wonder if that so Fofana's come out. That's interesting. Fofana's a fringe player, but I'm thinking about Badia Shield. I'm thinking about other center back. I think it is taking other French players in
Yeah,
that team.
there's a few French players on the team who have
Yeah.
unfollowed him.
Oh, so but it's for a squad that's not necessarily considered a tight knit group. This is another wedge that you're driving between all these different players. Enzo is.
Yeah, and I will include the video in this video
Hmm.
so you guys can watch it and make your own opinions about it.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
Chelsea not the greatest at picking good characters. It seems
yeah.
obviously with Enzo in this, and then I mean you see the Mudryk one that was almost a year ago when he
What,
got signed.
what did Mudryk say?
So there was a video Mudryk posted on social media where he was making fun of, I think it was an elderly man or just a man that was older than him that was getting a session with a personal trainer, and just he was doing the exercise. I don't know if he was doing rows or something. I don't remember, but
Yeah.
he was performing the exercise kind of awkwardly, and Mudryk was filming him and making fun of him, and it caught a little bit more of notoriety because Joey Swole is.
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, so Joey Swole picked up on the video and called Mudryk out for being a dick. Like, focus on your workout. Why are you making fun of somebody who is just trying to get their workout in?
Yeah.
They could be new, or they could have physical disabilities that make them look a little bit more awkward than that. But that's the thing. Like, it's douche moves all around. It seems like these players have obviously the pedigree and the quality, but maybe not the greatest of people.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different for a person who has as much attention as like a professional soccer player to do it compared to like an everyday average person, right?
Hmm.
Who just has an average amount of followers. They are definitely held to a different standard because if you're making fun of someone who is new to the gym or doesn't have as much knowledge of the gym, or like you said, has a disability because we don't know, you shouldn't necessarily do that. I have though seen like a compilation of like funny like people who go work out and like ego lift, and I think
Yeah,
that's funny,
that's
right?
funny.
It's funny to make fun of that. I think it depends on how you do it. There's a tasteful way to do it. There's a
Yeah,
distasteful way to do it. It just depends on how you do things. So I don't know. I haven't seen this like
yeah.
video. I'm gonna. I'll
Check it
probably.
out.
I may link it into this video
Yeah,
as well.
I'm sure people who watched it, they've seen it because it was, I mean, over a year ago. It's not something new, but I'm just thinking about that as that Enzo news is just told to me. Just it probably goes to show why Chelsea are kind of all over the place. They just have a lot of good stuff going for them, but it's like throwing like all your favorite ingredients into a soup that not necessarily create like a delicious soup. You probably just have just a bunch of stuff that you like, but do they all meld? Do they all flow together? Does it create a system that has identity? Is your infrastructure set you up for the next 5 years in a position where you can be better than you are now, or you can be worse. And I mean, we've talked about the ownership for their decisions and the way they run this club now. It's such a weird situation overall.
Yes.
When you're looking at all the different French players.
Yeah, so they have quite a few French players on the team. They have 1, 2,
Sassy,
3, 4, 5,
Malenga Sarr,
6,
Wesley Fofana. I forgot about
7.
Oh my god! Yeah. Oh, in Cuckoo. Yeah, well, I think it's
a lot of dudes to piss off on
yeah.
your team, right? Especially because Nkunku like falls into that whole African, coming from Africa descendants.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with this guy. I can't pronounce his name.
Leslie Unchukwu. Yeah.
Yeah, Uchukwu. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm sure a lot of these players fall under that African descendants.
Yeah, Gusto.
If not all of them.
Yeah, that's just. It's not a good look, Enzo. It's not a good look.
Yeah, so definitely having to do some explaining when he comes back to preseason, and something big for Enzo Maresca to deal with whenever he takes charge of this team officially in this preseason. So yeah, hopefully it works out. Hopefully, I mean he's made an apology, of course, being nudged into making the apology. But,
yeah.
So yeah, that's our Copa America review, guys. I'll link some of these videos in to see what you guys think. And let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section.
We'll be sporadically uploading since the season will kick off. Of course, there's different videos we want to talk about, especially with some of the teams and what their outlook is going to be for this season. But it's a nice little break before the season starts, because it's going to be every single week something's going to be as it usually goes.
Yeah, and then the season starts next month, so we're a month away from regular season starting.
Of course, we have the Olympics. I'll keep an eye on that for a little bit. Not only the soccer aspect, but also just the overall Olympics in general. But
yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you all next time.
See you next one.